Sophie barely finished her coffee before shoving her belongings into her bag. Every second she lingered in the restaurant felt dangerous now. She kept her head low as she walked out, her pulse quickening. Across the street, the black sedan she had noticed earlier was still there, its engine running softly. The night air was sharp, heavy with the kind of silence that made the city feel unfamiliar. She walked fast, resisting the urge to look back, but the feeling of being followed clung to her like a second skin. As she reached her apartment building, her hands were already gripping her keys tightly. The moment she turned the knob, she froze. A single sheet of paper was taped to her door. "You should have stopped." Her stomach twisted. The message was clear. This wasn't just a warning, it was a promise. She snatched the paper down, eyes darting around the dimly lit hallway. No movement, no sound. But she knew better than to trust silence. She locked the door behind her, double-checking it before sinking into the chair by the window. She tried to steady her breathing, but her mind raced. The Chandler case had been dangerous from the start, but this was different. Threats had come before. Anonymous messages, vague warnings. This was direct. This was personal. She checked her phone. No missed calls, no texts. Even Elijah, the one friend who had stuck around the longest, had gone silent. She hated what this was doing to them, to her. A sharp noise from the hallway snapped her focus back. A footstep. Sophie's grip tightened around the metal lamp beside her. The knob turned. She held her breath. A slow, deliberate creak as the door edged open. The figure stepped in, moving like a shadow. A knife glinted in the dim light. Sophie didn't think. She swung the lamp. The impact was solid, a sharp, sickening crack. The figure recoiled, the knife clattering to the floor. But he wasn't down. He lunged. She darted past him, shoulder slamming into the bookshelf. Her fingers scraped against wood, searching, desperate. A book tumbled, followed by a heavier object, a ceramic vase. She grabbed it and hurled it backward. The split second of distraction was enough. She sprinted for the fire escape, shoving the window open with shaking hands. Cold air hit her face as she climbed out. Below, the alley stretched into darkness. Footsteps thundered behind her. She jumped. Pain exploded up her legs, but she forced herself forward, darting into the maze of alleyways. Behind her, a voice cursed in frustration. She ran. She didn't stop until she was blocks away, lungs burning, hands shaking. That night, she realized, this wasn't about silencing her anymore. This was about ending her. The following days were a blur of paranoia. Her phone rang less and less. Friends stopped returning her messages. Even her editor was growing distant. "I can't protect you, Sophie," he had said, in a hushed tone. "This is bigger than we thought. You need to lay low." But she couldn't. The evidence was all there. Financial trials, political ties, disappearances. Every step of the investigation had led to one undeniable truth. Chandler wasn't just laundering money. He was orchestrating murders. She had to expose it. But how? Her usual channels were compromised. The newspaper wouldn't run it. Even online platforms felt too risky. Then it hit her. Live streaming. They could silence a story, but they couldn't silence the world watching it unfold in real time. So she prepared. She gathered every document, every recording, and compiled the most damning pieces into a single, undeniable narrative. She wrote a script, rehearsing in whispers, knowing she had one chance to get it right. The night she went live, she could feel the fear pressing against her chest, but she pushed forward. "Tonight I tell you the truth," she began, staring directly into the camera. As the numbers of viewers climbed, so did the tension. And then, comments flooded in. People were listening. Then, the power cut. Darkness swallowed her apartment. Her pulse thundered in her ears. She knew what this meant. They were coming. Grabbing her laptop and phone, she bolted, barely making it down the fire escape before headlights sliced through the alley. She ran. Again. This time, to the only person she had left, Elijah. Elijah had been hesitant at first, but when he saw her shaking hands, he knew this was real. Together they uploaded everything. They pushed the files to journalists worldwide. The evidence was too widespread now. The arrests came swiftly. Chandler and his entire network caught in the web they had spun for years. It should have been over. Life was supposed to return to normal, but it never truly does. One evening, weeks after the trial, Sophie sat at a quiet cafe, trying to feel normal again. Then a shadow slid into the seat across from her. She looked up and froze. The young man across from her smiled. His resemblance was unmistakable. Chandler's son. "I just wanted to meet the woman who destroyed my family," he said casually, stirring his coffee. Sophie's fingers curled around her cup. "You think it's over?" he continued. "But it's not." His smile didn't reach his eyes. "I have nothing left to lose, Sophie." Her blood turned to ice. The Nightcaller's legacy wasn't finished. It had just begun.